Well, thanks for being here, everyone. Everyone up here, we are all very excited about the future of Move and the future of Bitcoin, both areas that have attracted a lot of investment, a lot of developer resources, especially in the last year and a half or so. My name is Will, founder of Third Earth Capital, pretty new asset manager, mostly focused on early stage crypto VC. I also seeded Movement Labs, so I have a lot of love for the Move ecosystem. We have some pretty awesome panelists today, everyone with ties to Bitcoin and Move. So I want to start with just super brief intros, maybe up to a minute. Tell us about your project, your ties to Move, and your ties to Bitcoin.
Hello everyone, I'm Arwen from BSquared Network. BSquared Network is a modular Bitcoin layer 2 solution. From day one, we strive to scale Bitcoin the most practical and safest way. We introduced BSquared Rollup, the first Bitcoin rollup based on verification commitment, and BSquared Hub, the first Bitcoin data availability layer that achieves finality on Bitcoin. So that will be the brief introduction of BSquared Network, and I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Yeah, I'm John, so I'm the co-founder of Echo Protocol. So Echo Protocol, we are pioneering BTC risk-taking and yield infrastructure on the entire Move ecosystem. So for Echo itself, we have three main solutions. The first is we have our native bridge, whereby we allow users to bridge BTC assets into the Move ecosystem. The second solution is we have EchoLend, which is our lending platform to allow users to generate yield from their BTC assets. And lastly is we also intend to introduce risk-taking within the entire Move ecosystem, whereby we allow users to secure Move VM chains and leverage on the security of the Aptos validation and security itself.
My name is Jerome, so I lead Asia ecosystem at the Aptos Foundation. Aptos is layer 1 that's built on Move. A little bit of history lesson, the Move programming language was written by the team at the ex-Libra and Meta team. So they essentially took a look at the existing ecosystem and the language stack, right, used for smart contracts, and decided that there was a necessity for something that's a little bit more reliable, a lot more safe and secure, and also scalable. So the language itself, like Move, was built while at Facebook, and then they took it out and built a layer 1 protocol from that technology stack.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jason from UniRouter. I'm really glad to be here. So UniRouter is we're doing like liquid staking, like Bitcoin, and we build on BSquared network. And currently, I think we've just made like great achievement so far. So we've got like almost like over like 3,000 BTC like in staking, like approaching 200 like mil USDT in TVL. So I think we're just doing like pushing forward, and I think we're gonna like do some cross-chain and also like do some expansive applications for our like liquid token UBTC. Would like to share more details later. So thank you.
So Move has innovated at the virtual machine level, certain security benefits of coding in Move and executing smart contracts in the Move VM. But how big of a role will Move play in the future of Bitcoin? And so I'm very, very curious. I want to start with John and then Jerome, who are very Move focused. Many people are developing smart contract platforms for Bitcoin, many different types of layer 2s, layer 3s. How big of a role does Move play, and what developments are you guys following, either within your own team or other projects that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I think I can take this question first. I think within the Echo protocol itself, what we are really trying to do is to pioneer BTC assets into the Move ecosystem. So right now, I think we are the first BTC LRT project that offers two different routes for users. So there are other BTC LRT projects out there whereby they leverage on Babylon L1 staking protocol to allow users to do native Bitcoin staking onto the ecosystem itself. For us, we also allow users to go through the L2 route, whereby users are essentially able to bridge BTC LRT assets into the Move ecosystem as well. So that way they are able to enjoy the benefits and the yield from the L2 level as well, not just from the L1 level. The second is what we are developing on the Aptos ecosystem is our flagship product, which is ABTC. So ABTC is essentially the first native Bitcoin assets that can be used on the Aptos DeFi ecosystem. So right now, you can use it on EchoLand to generate real yield. So when I talk about real yield, I think most of the Bitcoin RT assets in the market right now are earning yield based on like points instead of actual liquid yield itself. Through our strong partnership with Aptos right now, users are actually able to generate actual liquid yield through their ABTC assets on the Aptos ecosystem. So I think we are very excited for that, and we believe that this will be an exciting way for us to help to grow the Aptos DeFi ecosystem, as well as to introduce a new wave of users into the ecosystem.
Thank you. It's actually a really big topic, so I'll try to like be succinct a little bit, but I'll start with Move and then like Bitcoin, right? BTC itself as an asset. I think firstly with Move, the Move team that we have is a core team of engineers, researchers, cryptographers that literally wrote the Move programming language. So a lot of the research papers out there is written by the core team that's still at Aptos Labs, right? I think that's a start. They are continuing to pioneer that language to propel whether it's new consensus mechanisms, as well as programming differences or standards for Move as a programming language. So that's something that we the team, I think, like continue to take on and continue to push for. How this help the broader ecosystem? I think if you look at, I would say like Aptos today is the most production-ready blockchain out there. We are at production mode of like 30,000 TPS. Move as a programming language is known to be a lot more secure again, a lot more scalable, and also, for developers easy to program. So I think like all those benefits are on the Move side, right? I think in regards to like how we look at BTC and how it interacts with Aptos and Move, it's a feel-for, right? I think when you look at BTC as a digital asset, digital gold, so to speak, and you look at the efforts that we have in terms of like traditional finance or what we term as open finance, right? The fact that DeFi and traditional banking can coexist. We have strong partnerships with a lot of the traditional finance world out there. Some of them are still being worked on in detail, but the ones that we've announced are, with Brevin Howard, for example, Franklin Templeton, Apollo, like biggest funds in the world, right? So with this, guys, I think when you look at like how the traditional finance market looks at BTC and how we're working with them on some of the other initiatives, I think there's a very good synergy there on two things, right? I think with Bitcoin, it is meant to be digital. It's meant to be a safe asset. So when you start to want to, whether it's optimized for yield or start to use that asset, you need to make sure that it's done in a safe and secure manner. And I would say like if you look at a lot of the attacks or like re-entry attacks or any kind of like bugs or hacks that's prevalent in other networks, is not a very reliable environment. I think for a lot of the Bitcoiners to look at, it's like, oh, this is something I trust, right? And the same goes for TradFi. When you look at KYC, AML, like these are very important things that aren't as present in the industry as we'd like. So these are things that I think we're working on together with the help of like obviously our team, the partnerships that we have, the relationships that we hold. But I think primarily a lot is like what's being done on Move and through Move that can help kind of bring those things together.
On a similar note, speaking of things you're working on, I am curious from Jason and Arwen, what are the hardest parts about developing for Bitcoin? Like where are the bottlenecks? Because a lot of this is brand new. I mean, some people are building on Bitcoin L1, for example, which is a whole nother topic, and I'm very, very curious what those developers are experiencing, but what is it like for your teams, and like what are the biggest bottlenecks and opportunities that you're seeing as a developer?
Yeah, actually we've been building like Bitcoin like layer 2 like for a while, and we've just been like collaborating with lots of Bitcoin projects like layer 2, and I think like it's currently like it's just about like the market awareness, like back to like January or like February, so back that time, I think it was like pretty hard, like very strong narrative for Bitcoin, for so like some kind of NFTs or like nodes or lots of other things. I think it was emerging, and I think pushing forward, and like after the halving and after like lots of things, I think it's just gonna, I don't know, like just just merging or it's just like slowing down or something like that. And so I believe like still like about a liquid thing and that we're just trying to solve because like we want to like the assets, like the Bitcoin assets, like just to be liquid like in other ecosystems. So that is what we're trying to fix. And we've just been attracting like lots of like staking like assets like in like our on our like platform like so far. So for UBDC, this our like liquid token. Just we're doing it like with lending and with like liquid like assets or like with like some others, or just to do some cross chains. Like for example, if you stake like UBDC like in other platforms, and yeah, you can gain like more like points. So currently you can gain our own points and also like from the token from BSquared network, like B2 tokens. So like basically, I think we're just trying to make it like more like applicable and to make sure that you're gonna like to earn like massively in multiple like scenarios. So I think that's what we're trying to do, like to attract more like users or like some kind of participants from other ecosystem like to participate as well. So I think that's what we're trying to fix, and that's what we're trying to leverage. Thank you.
I think it's really a good question because Bitcoin, the challenge to build on Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is designed to be simple. So there's no smart contract. It's not like move language, the high performance. So Bitcoin, the performance has huge limitation. So that's the hardest thing that for developers to building on that for a long time, like past a few years. So that's why when we are like to find an approach to scale Bitcoin, we need to find a way that we can scale Bitcoin without compromising on the safety. That's why we take the approach other than like only the section solution. We're just building a rollup. We are building a DA layer. That's a lot of things to do, but that's the only way that we think can be achieved in short term, but at the same time can still ensure the security of Bitcoin. And from an industry's perspective, building on Bitcoin, I think the most difficult part is to find a balance between decentralization and user experience. So if we go too far to the decentralization, like what Bitcoin has been designed, then the user experience will be sacrificed. That's why, like for everyone, they know Bitcoin, but it's very hard for them to participate in the crypto world. But if we like solve this problem using a centralized way, then maybe we can provide like a very good user experience, lower the entry barrier, but we may lose the core of crypto world, the decentralization. So finding the balance point for that, I think is the challenge facing by all the builders on Bitcoin now, no matter what approach they take to scale Bitcoin. And I think that is still something we are still working on. We're still looking forward that one day we can have a fully decentralized approach to scale Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin itself is very, very decentralized, but the end user, some of them don't care. Which leads me to my next question. I think it's kind of a hard question, and I want anyone to jump in, which is why should users, like why should investors care about scaling Bitcoin to begin with? Like it already does one thing, it does it quite well. You can move tokens around, you can move Bitcoin tokens around. So when you guys are raising money, when you're talking to developers, most people up here are infrastructure, like low-level infrastructure builders. Like what is your pitch to investors, to users, to developers for scaling Bitcoin?
I can continue to answer this question. I think first of all, the current performance of Bitcoin is around like 7 TPS. It's like super low when we consider it's like a global payment network. So the limitation is significant. And the second thing that we have to scale Bitcoin is that the economic model for Bitcoin, the safety assumption for Bitcoin is actually based on the incentive towards miners. So the hash power they provide secured Bitcoin. But when it reaches the cap, I think this assumption will be threat to this assumption and put it into risk. So that's why we need to find like another alpha, another like optional income for miners. That's also something we think is very important to provide to the miners, to the whales about why we need to scale Bitcoin. So that's from the economy part, and also from the design of Bitcoin. And in the real practice, when we talk with miners and whales, I think it's quite simple, as Jeremy and John has mentioned that. currently they are putting them like digital god. It's idle Bitcoin. You have no yield with that. You can only look forward to the increase of their price. But what we are doing now, together with Echo, with Aptos, with UniRouter, is to boost the liquidity of those idle Bitcoin, so that they can really participate in some sophisticated DeFi activities and earn the yield. And that's also the synergy we find between Bitcoin and Aptos. So the mutual benefits is that Bitcoin can provide this robust security and brand recognition, and Move language, high performance, and all the DeFi protocols we can leverage on provide these actual yields for the Bitcoin holders.
Oh yeah, I just want to like add up several points like following like Arwen's like presentation. I think that just what we're trying to do, like to provide like more incentives like to our community. I think we just want to like attract more like users to participate. I think that's also very important. And we've been running like a social fi campaign, and so we're trying to like to attract their attention, like to ask them to farm like in under our community, or like try to extend the market awareness. I think it goes pretty well. So already like thousands of like users have participated already, and I think it's just like something like to extend the market awareness, or like to build a coherent like community. I think that's the way that we're trying to do. You know, so always I believe it's just like the community is gonna support the whole the project and like pushing forward something like that. Yeah.
So I have another hard question. When we think about like all the new Bitcoin L2s versus all the existing L1s, so like we have someone from Aptos up here, which is fantastic. I've seen, I think, multiple raises, at least one raise for a team doing a move Bitcoin L2. So to what extent does everyone up here think that these new L2s, like how are they synergistic or PvP versus, we already have these other L1s? And I understand, well, I want to hear your answers first. How do you think about like the nature of these L2s versus L1s, and how can they work together, or how much do you think about competing against them?
Maybe to start with, I would say like this space of like the Bitcoin L2 and L1s and you know how it interacts with Move is still relatively new, right? I think like this same situation is similar to what we experience even on the non-Bitcoin industry side of things, where we have, you know, I think I last saw like 80 L1, L2s coming out next year. So that's, you know, I don't think that's sustainable, I think, just to put it bluntly, right? So I do think that over time there will be some consolidation. And again, it's around, you know, what Arwen mentioned, you know, how do we provide when this core group of Bitcoin community, what they believe and see Bitcoin to be, to basically enhance the use of the asset, right? And how they see that asset to be, the digital gold. You know, how do you provide it in a most safe and secure manner where some of these L1s and L2s are not necessarily doing, right? So to talk about DEA, for example, which they are doing, what they see as the future of that, and I think that's what we're working towards. I think that's one solution that is, I think, a pretty good guess of what the future can hold. And I think on our end, you know, what we see working with like the guys on the panel here is, again, right, from our perspective, you know, Bitcoin is meant to be a safe haven asset. It is going to be that way. We see like huge inflows from traditional institutions, like financial institutions, that start to hold that. But you know, when you think about how, you know, whether it's a user, a retail user, or institutional holder, like what are the ways in which I can enhance, you know, my holdings of this, right? Like today, I already mentioned again, it's purely capital appreciation or capital preservation. But at what point do we turn around and say like, okay, maybe a lot of this appreciation / preservation is there, but there needs to be a way in which I'm able to enhance my yield to, you know, whether it's optimize my holdings of my assets relative to other instruments that they can hold, be it structured products, for example, like in my old TradFi job, I guess, like we help a lot of corporates and corporate treasuries look into yield enhancements, you know, delta neutral strategies for capital preservation, or to help with, I guess, optimizing some of their borrows, right, with debt products. So how does Bitcoin flow into this as a more holistic asset allocation process, not just for funds, but I think eventually for corporate treasury, right? I think that's where we come into play, where we look at, you know, all the traditional finance institutions that we're working with. I think we're making very good progress there. And, you know, whether it's to deal with the different regulators of the space, and, you know, not to say that we are trying to shape regulation, But I think as a technology provider and infrastructure stack, we see ourselves as the enabler of what's being available to different regulators in different jurisdictions, and then they can make the decision on like what it needs to be today and in the future. So it's a longer answer, but yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. And developers are going to have different preferences. There's many different tools, and I think the whole like Bitcoin L2 space really goes hand in hand with the whole modular thesis and letting developers build whatever kinds of services and applications they want. I think we have time for one more question that I want to get answers from every single person on, and we'll go down the line. So we'll end with BSquared Network. I want your hot takes or your predictions for what does the future of Bitcoin and Move look like. So are we going to end up in a world where most execution is happening on an L2 with Aptos or Nubit or any other DA that does put proofs on Bitcoin? Or do you think we're going to trend towards a world where executing applications or using Bitcoin L2s becomes more niche? So we're all Bitcoin like builders or adjacent up here, but I'm curious, how do you think about an end game around Bitcoin and Move?
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's a great question actually. Visioning like for the future, I think that there are lots of things like to be done because we have seen the market is just. I think currently the narrative like for Bitcoin is a little bit weak. So I think for PvP mode probably it's just gonna be. I think we just need to join forces with each other. I mean, attract more attention from the market or attract more users. Like for example, for Fronttown, probably we've seen lots of media apps already or BTC media apps to attract more user base. And we have seen like Pump.Fun or some other meme coin launchpads. In that way, so the users they're so enthusiastic to participate or something. And we've also we're also gonna see some emerging trends like from Line or Kaya or like Sony, so they've got Sony chain or something like that. I think it's BTC builders. I think we're gonna leverage this kind of new trends or new narratives to integrate them, to integrate some new block into the whole ecosystem, to build more diverse applications or trying to leverage the liquidity or trying to make the stakers itself, I think, more profitable. I think that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're determined to do. So I think that's the thing that I want to talk about. Yeah, thank you.
I mean, I've already alluded to that in my previous little speech, right? I think a lot of it is when we think about the future of the industry, Bitcoin and all the other assets, we talk a lot about the instis are coming, and now the instis are coming, with the ETS for both Bitcoin, ETH, for example. I think it's how do you allow them to participate more, right? So I think they need a conduit. I think at Aptos we see ourselves as good conduits for that to happen, to bring liquidity and all the optimization that I talked about on the other side of things. So yeah, essentially that's how I would envision it. This is, I guess, the first step to it.
Yep, I think the way we see Bitcoin is more like a liquidity pool that hasn't been unlocked, right? Right now you see all the L1 competing for this pool of liquidity. I think one thing that we haven't touched more on is about BitVM being a trust minimized bridge, whereby it actually allows users to bridge assets across BTC to L1s in a very secure and risk-free manner. So I think for us, from a DeFi protocol perspective, we are excited to see the development of this BitVM, whereby it allows users to bridge their BTC assets with a very low level of smart contract and bridging risk itself.
I think the charm of Bitcoin is there's no designed route for it to evolve. So everyone is building it based on their understanding and their vision of this industry. And I'd say that I came from Web2 industry. I used to work for Alibaba Group. I say that Web3 is still at very, very early stage. We're still a long way to go to achieve the mass adoption that everyone can participate in that and can, contribute to that. So for me, it's like lower the entry barrier, increase the user experience, provide more real use cases for people to interact, use, and play with crypto and enter the Web3 world. That will be the ultimate goal for all of us, the shared vision. And I think Bitcoin, because of its brand power, has the biggest chance to achieve that.
I completely agree. And honestly, I'm really excited about this conversation because we are very, very early. And I want to have this conversation again a year from now and see how far we got. But with that, I really appreciate the time. And please help me in thanking our panelists.